Greetings. How are you doing? Are you suffering evil? Paul told Timothy in 2 Timothy chapter 4 to suffer evil. And my, isn't this world getting more and more evil? Under the authority of this rebel cherub. We don't know his original name. We know his titles: Devil and Satan. How are you doing? It's not easy, is it? You see, you may have questioned this yourself, like I have many times. What made this angelic being? He wasn't an archangel, he was a cherub. We'll come on to that in a minute. What made him turn against our loving Creator and caused all the havoc we see today temporarily? We know the kingdom will do away with all evil. You see, we're told in James that in chapter 1 that with evil things God cannot be tried or tempted. Neither does he try anyone with evil, but each one is drawn out by his own desire. And the desire gives birth to sin, and sin in turn leads to death. So the question is, what was the desire this rebel angelic creature had that caused his downfall and the state we're in today? Well, we're given insight in Ezekiel chapter 28. You need to read that chapter. It's addressed to the king of Tyre, but as above, so below. Because he goes on in this chapter to speak about, you were the anointed cherub, right? So it's addressing Satan here. Yeah, and you were perfect in wisdom and beauty. You were in Eden. Well, the king of Tyre was not in Eden. It was definitely talking about this original cherub. Okay. And it says you were blameless in all you did from the day you were created until the day evil was found in you. So what kind of evil are we talking about here? I think you'd agree that passions can drive people insane. You can be insanely in love with somebody who's actually not good for you. Or you can hate someone so much it eats you up and consumes you, and it leads to things like jealousy. Now this is what I think, I could be wrong. If the Father made this cherub, as Ezekiel 28 indicates, the kind of caretaker cherub over Eden, right? Suddenly a new creation arrives on the block, new kid on the block, Adam. And Satan's watching this, right? And then Eve, and Job tells us all the sons of God applauded, and that would surely include this former faithful cherub. But then what happened? After the applauding the creation of Adam before Eve, Adam was given the privilege of what? Naming all the animals, which would have taken a long time. Now, how would you feel, right, if you were in that situation and you were like the caretaker cherub? If you had jealousy in your heart, think about it. It's a possibility, isn't it? It's a possibility. Somewhere down the line, evil intentions got in him. Now we see this, as above, so below. For example, in the parable of the prodigal son. And I want to look at that parable from this angle, not on the mercy aspect and forgiveness and repentance, but on this. When the younger son returned to his father, what did the older son do when he heard a party going on? Because the father was putting on a party for his younger son who'd come back. What did the older son do? He heard the noise in the field, and he said to the servants, "What's going on?" And the servants said, "Your brother has come back." And the fatted bull, the young bull, is being killed. Now, that was not a normal thing in Israel, to kill the prized possession. So he sort of storms in, the older son, and says, "You, Dad, didn't even give me a goat to celebrate with my friends. When this son of yours, not my brother, when this son of yours who wasted his life comes back, you go and kill the prize bull." And the father says, "Son, you're always with me. We had to rejoice." So, that's an indication. And you have other examples. For example, Absalom. Now, Absalom got jealous of his father David. And Absalom came very, very close to overthrowing his father on the throne. And Absalom died a very ignominious death when he was hung by his long hair and had arrows shot through him. And even then David wept over him. "Absalom, my son Absalom." See, David wasn't vengeful. And what Absalom did was disgusting. Before this, he slept with David's wives. And that was a sign saying to the people, "I'm now king." You know, another example in the book of Esther. Now, if you've not read the book of Esther, it's a beautiful story about how one brave Israelite girl stopped the annihilation of the Jews in the days of King Artaxerxes of Persia with the father's help, Esther. But there was an evil man named Haman who was into astrology, and he was like the prime minister below the king. And one day the uncle of Esther, I think it was the uncle Mordecai, got honoured because Mordecai had stopped an evil assassination plot of Artaxerxes. And Mordecai went to the king's palace, and the king said, "What shall I do for a man who has honoured the king?" And Mordecai thought, "He's talking about me, guys, he's talking about me." And Mordecai said, "Well, he should be put on a horse and paraded around the city so people should respect him." So the king said, "Well, you do that for Mordecai." Imagine how humbling that was for this jealous, evil plotter, Haman, to lead the man he hated, the Jew, around. And Mordecai suffered an ignominious death by being hung on the gallows he prepared for Mordecai. Read the story itself. All I'm giving you is illustrations, as above, so below. Something entered into this rebel angel that made him jealous for power. And so getting to Adam and Eve was like a slap in the face to the father. You see this also, don't you? How in children's playgrounds they take your friends. If you're going to be his friend, I won't be your friend. Come to my gang. Come to my side. Power greedy, hate consumed, jealous people, the most dangerous on the earth. Sociopath, narcissistic people, total opposite to empaths. Beware of them. They're everywhere. Everywhere, folks. Just a few thoughts, a bit of a ramble. Beware of jealousy. We're told in the Proverbs, it's rottenness to the bones. It eats you up inside. It's interesting in Malachi, Satan is told that a fire will come from within him and he consume him. I think it's Malachi. He'll be eaten up from inside. So we must develop love, forgiveness, and never feel envious of anybody else's privileges. The Jesus gave the illustration of the 11th hour worker who got the same wage as the people who had worked all day in the field. And when they moaned about the fact this guy who came in the last hour got the same wage, the employer said, well, what's the beef? You got what I promised. What's the big deal that this guy got the same as you? You got what you were promised. Shalom.